Why is a cost-effective fighter jet that has proven increasingly capable in actual combat been rejected one after another by Egypt, Indonesia, and Thailand, ending up with no takers? An interesting development occurred at the recently concluded 10th Singapore Air Show. The August the 1st robotic team made its first appearance over Changi Airport after transitioning to the J-10C, executing high-difficulty maneuvers such as a 6-plane roll and a 5-plane V-formation flyby with remarkable precision. According to a report by Singapore's Asia News Channel, the J-10C and its export variant, the J-10CE, demonstrated remarkable stability during the 2025 India-Pakistan conflict, steadily building a strong reputation. Logically, a flagship product that has been battle-tested should be in high demand on the international market. Yet the reality is quite the opposite. The three potential customers that were previously widely favored, Egypt, Indonesia, and Thailand, have all backed out. What exactly is going on here? First, let's look at Egypt. For a long time, Egypt was one of the most likely overseas buyers for the J-10C, and the two sides had indeed engaged in preliminary discussions. However, based on what I learned at the air show, substantive progress in their cooperation never materialized. Ultimately, Egypt chose to procure the Winglong 3 UAV and the HQ-9B air defense system from China, while taking a detour when it came to manned fighter jets. The Egyptian Air Force's decision was not fundamentally due to a lack of confidence in the J-10C's technical capabilities. The real bottleneck lies in Washington's increasingly stringent controls. Currently, the F-16 series remains the backbone of the Egyptian Air Force, and the US maintains extremely tight control over these aircraft, from logistical support and parts replacement to system upgrades and maintenance, leaving Egypt with no autonomy in any of these areas. Should the US cut off supplies, this massive Air Force investment would immediately face the risk of paralysis. For any Air Force, such a potential supply chain disruption represents an unbearable risk. Therefore, although everyone from frontline pilots to logistics personnel has highly praised the J-10C's performance, from the decision-maker's perspective, ensuring the safe operation of the existing US-made fleet remains the most pressing practical issue. The equipment procurement agreement Egypt ultimately signed with China focuses primarily on drones and air defense systems, such as the Winglong III and HQ-9B. Equipment in these two areas does not significantly encroach upon US core interests, and in past cases, US intervention in such procurement has indeed been relatively limited. Therefore, I personally believe that for Egypt, this dual-track approach represents a pragmatic compromise within the current complex framework of geopolitical maneuvering. Next, let's look at the situation in Indonesia. Unlike Egypt's compromise under external pressure, Indonesia's approach resembles a carefully orchestrated commercial battle. In 2025, Indonesia repeatedly hinted to the outside world that it was highly interested in acquiring the J-10C, leading many observers of this market to believe that Chinese fighter jets were on the verge of gaining a foothold in Southeast Asia. However, in April 2026, the Indonesian Ministry of Defense officially announced the conclusion of its evaluation process, shifting its focus to prioritizing further cooperation with France on the Rafale fighter jet while simultaneously accelerating the development of the KF-21 in collaboration with South Korea. See the picture now. Indonesia's enthusiasm from start to finish was, at its core, a highly sophisticated negotiating tactic. They leveraged the J-10C's cost-effectiveness to signal to the French, if you don't lower your price, I have alternative options at any time. This strategy proved highly effective. In the later stages of negotiations, the French not only reduced the purchase price of the Rafale as Indonesia demanded but also made additional commitments to transfer certain avionics technologies. These conditions were the core interests Indonesia had been quietly pursuing all along. Once these objectives were fully achieved through the J-10C, a highly significant bargaining chip, Indonesia naturally lost its original motivation to continue procuring the J-10C. At the same time, the agreement reached with Turkey regarding the production line for the Khan fighter jet also provides more options for Indonesia's future air power. Finally, there's the case of Thailand. Thailand's decision-making logic is actually the most straightforward and uncomplicated. The Royal Thai Air Force's equipment procurement report makes it very clear. The core reason for rejecting the J-10C was not price or performance, but the extremely high costs associated with logistics transition. For many years, The Royal Thai Air Force has relied heavily on US-made F-16s and Swedish Gripen aircraft. Thailand's entire logistics and maintenance chain, its entire pilot training system, and even its ammunition supply chain have been built entirely around these existing platforms. This is a complex system that has been in operation for decades. Dismantling it and rebuilding a new system compatible with the J-10C would require an astronomical investment, just in terms of supporting ground equipment, spare parts inventory, and personnel retraining. What's more, these new investments would be completely incompatible with Thailand's existing US and Swedish equipment systems. Combined, these two massive expenses far exceed the cost of simply purchasing a few new aircraft. From this perspective, Thailand's decision to continue procuring the Gripen E/F fighters is less a choice of Swedish products and more a choice of its existing logistics system and maintenance practices. Many may find it regrettable that such an excellent aircraft has faced such difficulties, but I would argue that this is simply how the international arms trade market operates. It is never a simple matter of presenting performance data and a price quote to seal the deal. In this industry, invisible factors, such as geopolitical pressure, the buyer's complex regional strategic maneuvering, and the deep-rooted inertia of logistics systems within various military branches, often play a more decisive role than the aircraft's performance itself. Of course, it's not all bad news. In mid-April 2026, Pakistan took delivery of its first two J-10C fighters, becoming the aircraft's first official overseas operator. With the Pakistan Air Force, which boasts the most extensive combat experience, serving as an endorsement, the J-10C's reputation is gradually spreading across many developing nations and countries seeking strategic autonomy. As the saying goes, truly excellent products will never be overlooked. Although there are currently some temporary setbacks in Egypt, Indonesia, and Thailand, in the broader global market, for nations eager to break free from over-reliance on a single Western supplier and genuinely seeking to diversify their defense capabilities, an aircraft that has been battle-tested, boasts robust technical specifications, and offers cost advantages is actually a very worthwhile option to consider. Although there have been some setbacks so far, I personally believe that the future prospects are still worth keeping an eye on. Alright, the above is purely my personal analysis. If any of you viewers have different insights, feel free to share them in the comments or discussion section. See you next time.